to Destiny Awaits, the podcast where you discover how to step into your identity. I'm your host, Andrea John, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey of discovery with you. Each episode will explore profound insights and practical wisdoms drawn from stories, scriptures, and personal experiences. From unlocking your purpose to navigating the path toward your ideal vision, we'll uncover the threads that weave together autonomy, identity, purpose, and vision into the tapestry of your destiny. Together, we'll explore the nature of God and the essence of who you are, unveiling your destiny and igniting the spark of transformation. Whether you're seeking clarity, inspiration, or a roadmap to fulfill your calling, Destiny Awaits is your guide to living a life of purpose, passion, and profound impact. Join me as we embark on this empowering journey. Your destiny awaits, and it's time to unveil its magnificence. Welcome to the Destiny Awaits podcast. I am your host, Andrea, and today we have a special guest with us, Lennae. So, Lennae, welcome so much to the podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. Can you tell everyone just a little bit about yourself, whatever you feel comfortable with, or, brag about, your fam a little
Bragging
bit?
right. So my name's Lennae. I am a mom. I'm actually part of a blended family of 5 boys, which is kind of crazy. So it's never a dull moment in our life. Soccer was fun, lots of fun. Kept us busy. I'm married to a wonderful guy. He's also very much in love with Jesus, which makes things a lot easier in life. I am a nurse case manager and, just trying to get through day to day the best that I can with God's help and trying to also manage all the different roles in my life right now.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So, in the previous episode, I shared with everyone about purpose and who God is as creator, and within each day, how God had a purpose, and he made his creations based on that purpose. And I also shared that at the ladies' retreat, I walked everyone through identifying their purpose and finding their purpose statement. And that when I asked everyone if there's something about the retreat they wanted to share on the podcast, everyone wanted to share about the topic of purpose, which I absolutely love because my purpose statement involves purpose. It involves me living my purpose and helping others live their purpose. So it really was exciting to me to kind of see that and helped give a little bit of direction about where we're going to go over the next few episodes. So what I thought we'd do is just take everyone through the retreat weekend. Obviously, the very first part, very high level, just to kind of get us to the point where we worked on the purpose statement. I've already done episodes on the podcast about identity, about autonomy and self-control, about who God is as love, and those kind of topics, the things we talked about before we started working on the purpose. So everyone has a little bit of a foundation, when it comes to what takes us to purpose. So you had mentioned to me that when you were coming to the retreat, it was like a good time in your life. You were really needing it. So I guess my first question to you would be, first of all, when I was sharing the communications about the retreat and what it was going to be about, what did that foster in you in terms of expectations? What expectations did you have from the retreat? What were you looking to God for?
Well, I think the name of it, Destiny Awaits, I think a big part of that was I was kind of feeling you were going to take us into a lot of maybe what does God have in store for our lives and trying to reflect on what that looks like for us as individuals, and how we can better walk that out with Him. I know for myself, I was coming from a place of feeling highly stressed and also trying to figure out the roles in my life and how to make things a little more peaceful in, a blended house, but also dealing with a lot of stuff from my past that, we talk about stuff as like an onion. And so you think you're good one day and the next day that you're like down three notches and having to work through stuff again. And so I was kind of in an area of my life where I was in like the pit of the onion, working through old stuff and trying to reach out to God, but also trying to, just in the regular day to day, try and keep the peace in my life and in my family and in the different roles that I'm playing.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like, like we were talking before we started the podcast about how busy life gets, right? And sometimes you get so in the weeds of all the things we're doing, we forget to live intentionally. And this is where I feel purpose and knowing your purpose can help a little bit improve that in our lives, where we're not just finding ourselves in situations, but we're being intentional about the things that we're doing, not doing, and the actions that
Yes.
we're having.
Well,
So go
I
ahead.
completely, I was just gonna say I completely agree. I think intentionality, and trying to live that part out it's huge.
Yeah. And I like to get into offering tools for people because it's easy for us to say, well, you have to live intentionally. And for some, it may be, what does that even mean? How do I do that? And I feel that identifying your purpose, but also developing your purpose statement is an easy tool that you can use so that we can be a little bit more intentional every single day.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those things where you kind of have an idea of where you think you are and where God's putting you in life, but to actually nail it down to, the specifics of how you want to walk that out, I think is really helpful.
Yes, for sure. So I'm going to ask you a big question right now before we dive in.
Okay.
So you said that you were looking to find a little bit more purpose and destiny, the name allured you. So my question is, do you feel like you walked out of the retreat knowing that you were in your destiny more than you were when you first got there?
Yeah, so I was actually doing a lot of one-on-one prayer time, like really seeking Jesus's face before the retreat because of the stuff that I was trying to deal with. And it was funny because a lot of time, like in the prayer time, a lot of what I was getting about the purpose was I came to the retreat and it was like confirmation and alignment with what you were saying. So it kind of was something that I think prayer time led into retreat time, which led into, okay, so this is confirmation and this is how I'm trying to speak to you more clearly. And so I definitely felt like it was a process that started a little before the retreat. And then you kind of, it was funny, like you had those little gold specks out there and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, this is just like Andrea's talking to me right now. This is so funny. But so I think you breaking it down to like a very you broke it down into a way that was just very easy to think about and then kind of make it concrete. And then I walked away with a sense of this is how better to do this. So I think it helped quite a bit. And it was funny how it all kind of flowed together.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that because I always try to bring things in I'm a very logical person. So to me, it's
Hmm.
if I can demystify something and make it a little bit more logical, maybe it's easier for people to grasp. And, people are going to take things in different ways. So what you took out of it may be different from someone else, but I'm hoping that
Right.
the logic behind it is what drives you to get there. So that's super good to hear. So before we got into purpose, one of the big topics that we talked about was identity.
Yes.
And we broke it up. So we had like talked about identity on Friday night a little bit, like just touched on it. Then we talked about how God is love. And then we talked about the other God is there any aspect of identity, whether it's who God is or who you are, that really stood out to you? If you don't have anything, that's okay. But is there anything about that?
No, well, the fact that God is pure love and everything that he's done to bring us to be closer to him and in that all-encompassing love. Like that is the epitome of our faith and our belief system and the way that we are to live our lives and the way that we are to receive our love from God. Like, I think you summing it up with God is love. That is, love is the thing that has kind of been encompassing all of those different aspects for me. And that's the one that I think that out of everything, the fact that God loves you and you know, sent Jesus to die for you and that love that he did for us, you know, that once you truly understand that and then you can receive that fully and it can allow us to heal. And then once we're healed, we can love other people better, we can love ourselves better, we can live out our purposes better. So I think that is probably the biggest takeaway for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that was the big revelation I had is how in all the God is his love is at the core of all of it. And
Yeah.
if we tried to live our lives in that way, I think that there would be a lot more peace in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
But
100%.
all I can do is control myself. So I will, that's
We
everything I
do our
do. I try to, I mean, I fail at times. I don't always love people the right way, but I live my life trying to do that. And, and I learn as I go. No two situations look the same. No two people are the same. You can't love two people the same exact way.
No, I completely agree. It's like having different kids with different personalities.
Oh
You love
yeah,
them
like
all a little differently and figure out what works for each one. Or
yes,
you
like
do your best
my
anyways.
two daughters are so different. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like,
In a good way.
how did you come out of the same two people and you're so different? It's crazy. And, and raised in the same household and stuff. So it just, it's one of the things that has allowed me to learn so much is really raising those two girls and them being so different and unique, learning, okay, how I discipline one isn't going to be how I discipline the other, how I talk to one isn't how I talk to the other, the
Right.
relationships are different, the intimacy is different, the relationship, the love, it's all there, but it doesn't always look the same. I feel like as Christians sometimes it's so much easier to have that rule book, but when it comes to love, I don't. This is why we need Jesus, because I don't think there's
Right.
a rule book.
Well, and two, I think like the love languages, because I know you covered that a long time ago. I think, learning to love people how they feel loved goes a long way. So, it's just a matter of trying to understand other people and where they're coming from, and then hopefully to try and love them in a better way. And yeah, it's never perfect, but
Yes.
it's a work in
So
progress.
yeah, so as we transition onto purpose, I'm going to do a shameless plug for my favorite book called Keep Your Love On by Danny Silk,
Yeah,
because that's a book that really changed so much about how I live my life and how do I keep the love on in every situation. I live what I preach. I try to live what I preach. I have really difficult relationships in my life, and I try to keep the love on in those situations. And it's the skills and tools that I learned from Danny Selkin, like the principles that I learned from him that are biblically driven, that have allowed me to really have a bigger revelation of his love. And that's essentially what's changed my life. So, okay, so knowing our identity is so important to living our purpose because our identity will always stay the same and our identity shines through in our purpose. So when we live our purpose, the way let's say you and I had a very similar purpose. The way you express your purpose is going to look different from how I express my purpose because our identity is always going to reflect God, but we also have different roles and we have different skills and gifts. And that's
yeah,
something we're going to talk about later on in the podcast because to me, I feel like identity and purpose and vision comes before gifts and roles. I think obviously it's all important in our lives, but one of the big things that I want everyone to realize is that it doesn't matter what your role in life is, whether you're a mom, whether you're, you have a secular job, whether you're a pastor, whether, whatever it is that your role in life is, you still have the ability to express who God is through you, which is your identity, and to live out your purpose. So the way the there's different strategies and approaches to developing a purpose statement. The one that I have found to be the best is really one where your purpose doesn't change throughout your life. Your purpose statement essentially stays the same. So you may change the wording here and there to finesse it, but the core of it is the same. It really doesn't change. And it's what drives you. So when I look at purpose, that's really, you know, what I see. And then God is expressed in different ways through our purpose. And through that, we'll develop action plans. And we didn't get to it at the retreat, but we also need to develop a vision statement and all those things and look at how it applies to every area of our life. So when I wake up in the morning and I have my purpose statement and that purpose statement is driving me, it's not just driving me what the day I go to church or the day I have a ministry obligation or the day I go to work. It should apply to every single area of your life. So for example, I'm a program and project manager who specializes in purchasing. My purpose statement is around empowering others to live their purpose so they can live their best life. So even at work, I have the opportunity to empower someone else to live their purpose. And that may not always be work related. Sometimes I'm just encouraging someone who's telling me a story or whatever the case is. And, I'm encouraging them and empowering them, right? So they realize, like just the other day, I went to go see the doctor. She was supposed to help me. I started telling her about something and she said, "Wow, you really given me something to think about. I think you've really changed something in my life here." And it's, I was at the doctor and she's a doctor. She's supposed to be smarter than me, but I wake up every day looking to empower and encourage others to live their purpose. So it's just something that you can experience in your home life with your kids and your husband or your parents or your siblings, your classmates, your coworkers, your church friends, your neighbors. Like your purpose statement encompasses every aspect of your life. So that's how big it is. And that's why it's kind of scary, right? It sounds like
You
a
better get
people
right.
monster. But I one of the things I learned, and even more so at the retreat, I realized something, Lennae, and I hope this doesn't sound very braggy, but I'm just gonna be honest. I realized at the retreat that I have a gift of helping people find their purpose through their stories. So they could tell me any story, and I'm able to pick up on the heart of the matter, on what they're trying to say through their stories. And one of the things that why stories are so great, like if you look, Jesus taught in story. This, he said parables and taught in parables, and there are stories because stories connect people. It's something you can relate to, and sometimes there's multiple lessons you can learn in one story. But when people share a story, it's an easy way for them to share their heart authentically
Hmm.
without too much clutter. Like you just tell me your story. Just tell me, So I realized at the retreat that I had that gift. And then I found this verse, Proverbs 25, that says, "The purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out." And I feel like the revelation that God has given me on love has allowed me to see purpose. Like his heart is motivated, the purpose of his heart is motivated by love. And it's allowed me to pull that out. So when someone sees their purpose, or like the amplified version says, "A plan in the heart of a man is like waters in a deep well, but a man of understanding draws it out." So someone may be drowning in the depth of everything that they are. Like, think about you, Lennae. Like, you have so much to give, so much to offer, so much talent, so much experience. I'm sure there's so many things that you want to do, and you have your family and your coworkers, all these different people that you want to help. And sometimes it can be like, oh, where do I go? What do I do? And through this topic of purpose, I feel that I can help people draw out what that purpose is to help give a little bit of direction, so it's not so, you're not letting life happen to you, but life happens for you because you're leading the way through your God-given purpose. Hopefully that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, it does. And I mean, just having an idea of how to um navigate. I mean, you have a gift and you were able to kind of help me get mine more streamlined when we were at the retreat. And I think to go from having a kind of a vague understanding and a vague idea to something pinpointed with stuff like, okay, this is where I'm at with this. This is how I can apply this to my life, and this is how I can walk it out. With that pinpointed is it makes things so much more streamlined. It's easier.
For sure. So would you be able to explain to us what the experience was like? So when we started the activity, just being completely honest, it was the first time that I personally led others through developing their purpose statement. So I didn't know really where to start. I didn't do a great job in the beginning of explaining some things that now I feel like I can articulate better. But can you explain to everyone what the process looked like? How did you perceive the process? Like, obviously, everyone told stories. So can you explain what everyone went through?
Yeah, well, so you basically paired us up with somebody else, and then we shared, we kind of read different dialogue pinpoints that we could discuss with somebody else and to relate a story or a thought on that, and then to kind of have our partner share, we would share our story with them and then vice versa. And then through sharing our stories with our partner, they could help draw out maybe the stuff that we couldn't see as well about ourselves, what we enjoy doing, what we felt like was maybe a blessing in our life, what our talents or gifts were, kind of the things that brought us joy. Our partner was able to hopefully pull that out and then help us to kind of clarify um, maybe our purpose a little bit better for us. So it
Yeah.
was kind of sharing our story and then having them kind of help pull some of that out too to make it a little bit more easy to see.
Yes. So the story prompts were intentional, right? They were story prompts focused on basically you telling a story of a great day, you know, a day that brought you fulfillment, that brought you happiness. It incorporated stories from different times in your life. So maybe if there's a story that stood out to you when you were a kid or you were a teenager, you can kind of draw from it. So there's questions that help you. So you're not just telling a random story, right? Like, there's a point to the story. And it's so that you can tell your story of that great day that you had, including details. So where were you, who you were with, including the names, and you telling the story in as much detail, excitement, or whatnot to your partner. And the reason we do that is because not only are you telling your story, but your partner is listening to you and taking notes. And there's certain things that they're looking for. And they can ask you questions and ask, well, why did that make you happy? Or why did that excite you? And that draws out the why behind things that helps them also, write the notes. So did you enjoy that storytelling part? Did you find it easy? Was the time too long or too short?
I thought it was pretty on point for the most part. I think we had a lot of fun kind of going through the answers, and it was nice to kind of reminisce about some of the good times and then to share that with somebody. So I did enjoy that part. And I felt like it just depended on the person whether it was long enough, you know? everyone
True,
was
true,
kind of
yeah.
at different points.
True,
When,
some people will
you
finish
know,
early, some people,
some
yeah, were
people
like,
got
"No,
through
I need
one.
more time," yeah.
So it
Okay,
just depended.
so then, your partner and you would write notes. Then one of the things that we did was we tried to organize the notes that we took. So we had journals. So everyone swapped journals. So Lennae, when she was telling her story, she'd give her journal to her partner, and her partner would take the notes right in her journal so that Lennae would always have it. And then what we did is we organized that information. So it's not just, all mumble jumble, because the whole point is for us to help Lennae find her purpose. So there's two different, there's the action statements, and then there's impact statements. So when we look at someone telling their story, what are the things they did versus what are the impacts it had. So for example, using my purpose statement, it's to empower and encourage others to live in their purpose so that they can live their best life. So my action is to empower, it's to encourage, where the impact is people live their best life. And there's different variations to my purpose statement depending on who my audience is, but just to give you the gist. So, Lennae, can you share with us what your purpose statement is?
Well, I actually did help Andrea tease that out a little bit, but basically, after kind of going through everything, my purpose statement was to live a life of intimacy with Jesus so that others will know God's love for them.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, just a very, a very like generalized understanding of, you know, where I want to be with Jesus and making sure I'm intentional with that. And then hopefully that will spill into my relationship with other people.
Beautiful. So, one of the things that we notice when people tell their stories, create their stories, and we organize information is that the purpose statement always will focus on other people. So, while there's an action that we're taking and something that we enjoy doing, in the end, it's for the benefit of other people. So, what's your
Right.
impact statement? What's the second part of your statement?
So that others will know God's love for them.
Yeah, so that's the impact, is that people will feel loved by God and know his love, but there's something you have to do in order to achieve that. Now,
Right.
when we work on vision, we're going to use the impact statement a little bit more to develop our vision statement, just as a little sneak peek thing, but but that's really how we develop the statement. So purpose statements should be short. We don't want them too long because we want them to be something that you can memorize and wake up every day reminding yourself, this is what I'm living for. This is what I'm doing. And the best thing that you can do is that it not be just about something you do, but it becomes who you are. You should be able to rattle off your purpose statement to everyone you talk to in conversation. So it doesn't sound like you're reading or you're a robot, but it's something that it's just who you are. Hey, I encourage and I empower people every day to live their purpose because I think it helps them live their best life. And that's one of the things that I really encouraged everyone to do, is to memorize it, but also keep it short. So some people, right, Lennae, like we had longer ones because we're trying to develop it. So we create these big, long statements, sentences, sometimes multiple sentences. And then what
Hmm.
we did is we worked together with our partner, and then I went around and helped people too bring it into a smaller sentence, and making sure that everyone was focusing, okay, this is what I'm doing versus this is the impact that I'm having. When you were trying to create your purpose statement in the beginning, so once the storytelling happened and once we tried to organize the information between actions and impact, what was the most difficult part about starting to write your purpose statement? Like, did you get stuck at all?
I did. I think for me it was I could see the story I could see the story and the people that were involved in the story, and I could see the joy in that story. But I had trouble figuring out how to pull the joy in working with those specific people into something that I could do in an everyday situation, not just those specific circumstances, but more into like a generalized moment to moment purpose statement. That was probably the hardest part.
Yeah, and I think that's where were you paired with Alicia?
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah, so
was.
I noticed that anyone who was paired with one of the younger folks, it's a very different experience because the lack of life experience doesn't allow them to listen to what you're saying, if that makes does that make sense?
Well, I mean, it does. I think we both kind of were struggling with it a little bit because we're like trying to pull it together. You kind of just you fine-tuned it there for us,
Yes.
I think.
And I know,
Yeah.
like I said at the
Finesse.
beginning, I did not explain it the best, so I know, I've refined that a little bit. Um, so once you like, what was the aha moment that you had where you're like, "Oh, okay, I think this is where I'm headed. This is the purpose statement that fits me the best."
I think I felt comfortable and at peace with it when I saw that when I was able to kind of bring um my whole experience into it. So like I said, I kind of had the prayer time beforehand, and then what you were saying was just kind of like right spot on with everything. And so the two for me really kind of flowed. And so it kind of came into a fullness when I was like able to merge those two pieces of it. And then when you helped me fine tune it into something where I could see myself walking that out as best I can, not perfectly, but as best I can with God's help. I could see that walking that out realistically in my life. That's when I felt at peace with it because I felt like this is something God's been speaking to my heart. Here's Andrea. She's kind of like, you know, preaching to the choir because this is something that I think God's been working on. And then it just kind of came to that point where it came to fruition.
And I personally believe that everyone knows what their purpose is, and they know they can be in their destiny instantly. But we're so riddled with doubts and confusion, and like we had said, we get so busy, we get caught up in all these things. We don't often take time intentionally to sit down and figure out, what is the driving force of my life? Why am I going this way? And why is it sometimes I find myself somewhere and I'm like, how did I get there? And it's, if we can take our purpose, identify our purpose. And again, this is all partnered with Holy Spirit. This is not, I do believe that we need to be self-aware and we need to be honest with ourselves, but this is all partnered with God. And this is all with a foundation that we are created in God's image and we are to reflect him. Our destiny is to reflect and bear the image of Christ. That
Right.
is, we've talked about this many times, right? It's like,
We're the
that's what,
diamond.
yeah, I
Yeah.
will, I will say this till the day I die multiple times over and over again. Because I think that there's a big misunderstanding about what destiny is and what predestination is biblically, and it brings a lot of anxiety and confusion in people's lives. And when we realize that we are called to bear the image of Christ, and we can do that whether we have a microphone or not, whether we do it inside a church or not, whether we are home washing dishes or are out evangelizing, we have the ability to live our destiny and to bear the image of Christ. We can do that every moment of the day. And when we realize that, we're gonna feel very fulfilled. So I happen to know Lennae, and I know her hearts for evangelism and all these things. And one of the things, I didn't touch on it in much detail at the retreat just because of time, but there's a difference between roles and ministry, um, and callings and gifts and things like that. Our identity isn't tied to our purpose and isn't tied to our calling. You
Right.
are who God created you to be. Nothing can take that away from you. Nothing can change that. This is why we need to know who God is and who God created us to be,
Yep.
because that's the key to everything. But our purpose is what drives us. It's what ignites a fire in us. So what's your purpose statement again?
It's to live in intimacy with Jesus so that others will know the love of God.
Yeah, so what brings you fire, what brings you excitement is to be intimate with God, which I have seen that in your life. So you really long to have that really close communion with God, to know Him, to hear Him, to spend time in His presence. And it's
Yes.
so
Yep.
that you can be a light, essentially, so that people can see God in your life. And for people to see God in your life, you recognize that you need to have the intimacy, and that's what gives you fulfillment and joy. It's what excites you. So you can wake up every morning knowing, today I'm going to do something that's going to grow my intimacy with God. And through that, He will be known. And when you
Mhm.
lie down at night, no matter how small, maybe you smiled at someone, in Target, or you spent time in worship and prayer and God gave you a revelation, or you had a hard moment and the day was so hard, but you were able to take a moment and just spend it with God. When you lie down your head on that pillow at night, you're going to know, I lived out my purpose today. Even if it's,
Yeah. Yeah. You just call it a win.
yes, it
Yeah, because
doesn't
some
have
of
to
the
be
moments are
huge.
good and yeah, it's like, the day-to-day stuff, sometimes it seems so mundane. But I think when you think about, like you said, living your purpose, it ignites that fire. So it brings joy even to the small moments. And the hard moments are still there, but it's like it, it kind of makes the hard moments worth it.
Yep. It gives, like, today I was listening because I'm like a student of purpose, basically, but I was listening to this podcast, and it's, when you're in a difficult situation, a difficult moment, and I know, like, you have a past just like I have a past, and
Hmm.
you do have a difficult moment, having a purpose statement established, if you can bring yourself to this place of where it's just how you live, it's what you do, even when you're going through a difficult time, you take that moment in stillness with God and just say, this is my purpose. How can I live my purpose through this difficult situation? What decision do I have to make in this situation, and how I'm feeling or what I'm doing? What can I do that, again, it's driving me? What can I do to align whatever it is to my purpose? Because even though the situation is a little stinky, if I can align it with my purpose, I'm going to have that peace inside saying, I did what I'm called to do in this situation. May not, it doesn't always feel good. Some moments are sad, but it gives you that fulfillment.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's really, I mean, I guess for my purpose statement, the intimacy with Jesus, that makes me want to try and understand his heart in each situation so that I can then align myself with his heart with whoever I'm dealing with. And there's a lot of times that I am not able to do that because I'm perfectly imperfect, but there's a lot more peace to be found when you try and do it his way, you
Yeah.
know.
So have you found the purpose statement to be beneficial? Like, since the retreat, has it come in handy? Do you have any examples?
So I actually have been trying to do a lot of prayer and worship in my life right now. Like I said, I've been having those onion moments where I'm having to kind of heal and be in his presence in order to kind of feel, like my identity is in him so that I can live more fully in him and then have that intimacy and then live that out in my life and then let God's love flow through others. But I think the biggest thing for me is the intimacy comes from one-on-one time with him in prayer and quiet time and just trying to be in his presence and asking him what he wants out of me in certain moments. And so it for me it's looked like focusing on my family and trying to be there for um the boys as best I can in certain situations and to try and be more of what they need from me in a godly perspective, like Carter, one of my sons he's been going through some stuff and um my counselor actually she mentioned something about praying the rosary with him. And then he brought it up that he had the rosary and he's been kind of praying. But it's just funny how God's like, when you try and listen and you pray into how to help them through the stuff that they're going through. He's going through a hard time right now. And as a mom, I don't always have all the answers. But I know that there is somebody who does. And so sometimes it's just pointing him to Jesus. And so we said the rosary. That was the first time we said it together the other day, last night actually. But it felt good to kind of point the finger to Jesus instead of trying to point the finger at myself and saying, how do I make this better as his mom? Because you can't always make things better as a parent, but we can try and show them who the one is that they can go to as well.
I love that. That is such a gold nugget. Sometimes they don't need us, they need him, and we can't
Yeah.
fix everything. That is
Yeah.
a gold nugget for all moms out there. Because sometimes, like, I've been in situations where I see the pain, it hurts me, but I don't, there's no way I can change it, fix it, heal it, but if we can point them to Jesus so they can have what we have in him, th- that that's the best thing we can do, right?
Yeah. That makes all the difference in the world. And I think for him to find his peace in God, not in and this was another point that she made to me was for him to be able to run to God and not always have to run to me because I'm not always going to be there because I'm as his mom like trying to make sure I'm meeting all the needs and you can't always do it.
Wow. That is so true, Lennae.
Yeah.
So true. Um, yeah, so definitely God is the source. Is there anything else before we go that you want to share that you've learned that popped out at you, or anything that you want to share that's aligned with your purpose that you're like, "Hey, while I'm here, let me share this with everyone."
Well, I just want to thank you actually because I know I know my past and I know where I've come from and it's been pretty bleak and dirty and dreary and painful and you have loved me from the beginning with like an unconditional love that is truly from God, and I think that you being in my life and having you and your husband that just kind of like helping to bring us together and helping to love on us and just to it just it kind of helps mature us a little bit and mature me a little bit to a place where I kind of felt unlovable in a certain place. I had people like you with the true heart of God in you loving me into a place where I could grow and become a better person and connect with God on a closer level. So really I just want to thank you and Mike because honestly you guys have been so so helpful on my journey. Like you really are like a big part of my journey closer to God. And I think people like you are so special.
Thank
So it's
you.
kind of a thank you to you guys, I guess.
Thank you. Well, what's incredible is, I always say this, and I think people think I'm just saying whatever, but I mean it so much, is the blessing that you are specifically. So I'm not even going to take it generalize. Okay, I'm going to say like the blessing that you are, the fact that I get to know you. Not that I know you, the fact that I get to know you, that God brought you into my life has enriched me so much, because there's so much that you teach me, that you bring to the table. I know now we don't get to see each other as much. Like, your life has changed and you're living in a different area and I'm living in a different, like,
Mhm.
it's kind of, we were in the same city and now you're an hour more north and I'm in
Yeah,
hour south, and
we're pretty
you
far
know,
apart now. Yeah.
Jacksonville sits in the middle. Um, but you're one of those people where we don't have to talk all the time, but I feel like we're connected, right? And I know
Yeah.
if I need you, that you'll be there. And I just hope that you feel the same way. Like, hey, if you need someone, like, I will drive there. I will be there for you. I love you to pieces. You express the heart of God. You have this softness about you, um, this meekness that to some may seem like weakness, and it's not. It's a strength that you have. Um you're very cautious with your words, at least from what I've experienced. And that matters. Like, to me, that matters, because I think sometimes, I'm a very passionate person and I'm like blah 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 all the time, right? So someone like you, to me, it's like it's a superpower. Like, your ability to just observe and listen and watch. And you have such a caring heart. I mean, and anyone who, like, I've met your parents too, like, they're just the sweetest people ever. So it's like, of course Lennae's gonna be sweet.
Oh, well, that is so nice of you guys. Yeah. Yeah, it's been so great. I'm glad that we've actually been able to keep in contact and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
so I mean, I love it when I see people, living their lives and awesome things happening. And I know things aren't always easy, trust me, I know, because I go through stuff too, what I go through. um but just to see those happy moments and kind of like the growth and the advancement in life, if that makes sense, to see you,
mhm.
like fall in love again and do all those things that I know probably at one point you were like, never in this world. So that just makes me so happy. It makes me happy to see you happy. So thank you so much, Lennae, for being on the podcast, sharing a little bit about your story. I know it's not always easy to kind of put your stuff out there, so I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you and all that you do. So,
Thank you. So you're always welcome as a guest. So I don't have to invite you. You just tell me, hey, I want to be on. You can talk about whatever you want.
awesome.
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
Andrea. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Destiny Awaits. I hope the insights shared today have resonated with you and inspired you to take meaningful steps towards your destiny. Remember, your life is a journey. Embrace the challenges, celebrate the victories, and stay committed to living a life that reflects the image and likeness of God. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to Destiny Awaits on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube and leave a review. Your feedback fuels our mission to empower and encourage others like you on their path to living their best life. Until next time, keep shining bright and living your destiny. This is Andrea signing off from Destiny Awaits. Take care and remember, your destiny awaits.